Hey, good evening, everyone. It's yours truly, Tammy B. And I am thanking each and every one of you and welcome you to another session of Real Talk with Tammy B and Company, the show where we are recording live so that you amazing people can actively engage in our conversation with the chat. So I just want to welcome you all again. I'm sorry, y'all. I had got feedback from the YouTube stream, so that distracted me. So feel free to drop questions, comments into the chat throughout the presentation because I will read them for the Queens of Wisdom Wednesday. And as always, I'm extremely grateful for each and every one of you joining us tonight along with my man, Mr. Shelly Sims. Hey, Shelly.
Hello, everyone. Hello, and good evening.
Good evening. And Shelly, this is Shelly's first time with the Queens of Wisdom Wednesday, y'all. So I want to see how this plays out tonight. We gonna have a good time. We gonna have Shelly want the queens to take it easy on him, and they like, no, we want you to take it easy on us.
Play fair, play fair. Everybody on their square. We just gotta stay on our square.
Okay, look, I know everyone's gonna play fair in the sandbox tonight. And so our girl Cola E the Great is running late, but she will pop on as soon as she can. But we are going to move forward without her until she is able to join us. And as always, I do want to ask, if you are not part of our community, to please join us by subscribing, as we are here weekly at 7:30 p.m. with new content. So, Miss Sylvia Abuela, how are you this evening?
I'm great and looking forward to tonight.
Yes. As am I. When I saw the information, I said, "Oh, this gonna be a very interesting one." So I just know that some enlightenment will take place over the call tonight. Miss P, how
Yes,
are you this
I'm
wonderful
doing
evening?
fantastic, wonderful, glad to be here. It's been a
And
wonderful week so far and very busy, lots of things happening that I didn't expect to happen, but nevertheless, just moving right along.
as well, we all should, because I think life is throwing a whole lot of curveballs right now. But you know what we got to do? We just got to keep on moving.
Yep.
We have got to keep on moving. So, listen, this week, we're at the start of a new month. So, I do want to wish happy birthday to all born in the month of June. And we know this is part of Gemini season, which is in full throttle. So, I hope all of you are having a ball, you Geminis out there, and those who are in the month of June. Happy birthday to you all. And also, I want to acknowledge that we have crossed over into Black Music Month. And a little bit about that, Black Music Month is also African American Appreciation Music Month. It's celebrated in June and recognizes the significant contributions of African American musicians to American culture. It's a time to appreciate the diverse range of genres and artists that have shaped music history and continue to influence contemporary sounds. The month was officially designated in 1979 by the late President Jimmy Carter. So get out. I know music is good for the soul, and I know. And look, I call music my personal trainer when I work out. I don't need a physical person. Music is my little upbeat, my little energy source. So, and also, I'm going to ask this question to the panel. I'm going to start with you, Shelly, since you normally are not on with the queens. I'm going to
Okay.
ask this question to you. What's something you wish you had better understood?
Hmm. Jeez. It's so much. I don't know. I don't know. It's so much. I think the main thing I wish I had better understanding of is probably just more how life works, kind of, and not living life individually, but living in this society we live in, how the game is played. Yeah.
You know, there's a book titled "How to Play the Game of Life" that
Oh
I
yeah.
have on my to do my YouTube list to listen to. Y'all know I'm always trying to bring y'all new stuff. So
I need it. So no, I learned it now, but I wish I knew it younger instead of figuring it out on my own. I have a saying I always say. I said I got to the fork of the road and went straight, and now I'm lost.
oh.
Like what? So that would be it for me.
You know, but that's an interesting concept. I got to the fork of the road and I went get straight and I got lost because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right now it's whew, we don't even have time. We do
Yeah.
not have time. Miss Sylvia, Abuela, what's something you wish you better understood?
I would say cosmic consciousness.
Ooh.
Um, I heard about it, but it took years before I really began to understand what it's all about. And that's just about the way it's supposed to be because this is 2025, they say the year of the Great Awakening. A lot of people are coming into the cosmic consciousness, but I think this is a part of our journey. Everything happens to us at the right time.
That is so true. That is, oh my gosh. And you know, it's interesting that you say everybody that more and more people are coming into the awakening because it, it's so hard when people try to deny truths that the spirit is trying to reveal to them because of those limited beliefs that they hold that's keeping them from that awakening, when really God is saying, okay, it's time to, it's time to wake up to who you truly are, who I truly am. Shelly, you said something about just like the journey of collectiveness, in a sense, me paraphrasing, because really when we really all stand, we are one. We are all of the same spirit. We would move and operate different. This world would be in such a much better place if we really understood what the both of you just said. Miss P, what what's something you wish you understood better?
Why, I wish that I understood better why I chose the life I did. And
Mm.
yes, I wish I understood that. Why I chose the life I did, why throughout my life it has taken me so long to understand certain things that I'll say some 23, 24-year olds know now. Okay, maybe not to the extent that I know, but they are aware of things that I was not aware of when I was in my 20s, you know. So, and it's just like the video I sent to you about the young lady who talks about learning about Mr. Fuller when she was in high school. Now that just blew my mind away, you know. And so those are the kinds of things that I wish I understood more why I've made the life choices that I've made.
Wow, that was powerful. That was powerful. Cause I have felt that way myself at times. And then what gave me peace with it
Mhm.
is everything happens in divine timing. So it's like I feel everything that I learned when I was supposed to, or even if I got off track, that course correct came into place. Whereas life intervened on my behalf and said, okay, let's reshift the trajectory of where you headed to get you back on course. Because at the end of the day, we know there's multiple paths to get to that final destination, you know, that as we go through the journey of life. So that is good. Wow, you guys gave me some powerful responses. But I am going to ask the question to the chat. If there's anyone listening in the chat now that would like to answer that question and add, I will read it out loud. What's something you wish you understood better? Thank you. I appreciate all the responses.
And you answer it. What's your answer?
I'm the host. Actually, I wish I better it kind of tied into kind of some of what you all have said, but I wish I really understood life better earlier. In other words, you know, why did I make some of the decisions that I made early on in life? Why did I find myself almost Miss P, like the life that I chose to be a part of? And you know, when I look at you know, some of the moments in my childhood that I don't find to be pleasant, and even things that have happened in my adult life and things like that, I wish I would have understood better some of the, I'm trying to say this as politically correct as I could, some of the teachings of the Bible, because I grew up a preacher's grandkid. I wish some of the things that were really explained to me early on in life were explained from the awakening moment that you kind of talked about. Was that Miss Sylvia? I wish I would have understood that better, because I feel my life I would have been powerful, just like you said, Miss P, the younger lady. I was trying not to answer this question because there's so many ways I could go with it, but I would have better understood life in its true meaning, and I wouldn't have gotten caught up in trying to find myself, because I feel I spent a good portion, some 40 plus years, of really finding me. I feel I would have found me earlier, and I think that's the best way that I could sum it up. I would have, if I understood things better. And somebody put in the chat, love it, the power and history of being Black.
Yeah, everyone wish we learned that early.
Exactly. And that person got a virtual high five in the chat on that. Yes. Yes. Okay. So as we dive into the talk today, so gotta give y'all this little fun food fact for today. So did y'all know today is National Cheese and Frozen Yogurt Day? So I guess it's a day of dairy if you're not lactose intolerant. And for this next one, see, I say it all the time. I think we record on the wrong day, because today is also National Hug Your Cat Day. And I'm like, okay. And it's also Old Maid's Day, which the day is dedicated to acknowledging and celebrating, catch it now, celebrating women who have never married, often referred to as old maids. While the term itself might have negative connotations in the past, the day is intended to honor the contribution of these women to their families and their communities. So no longer is being an old maid a bad thing. In fact, you know, that's your truth and we live it. Oh, and that's another thing that I wish I better understood. Learning my truth and living it authentically. That would have summed everything up right there, y'all.
Well, Sylvia, is his name Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
Okay. So he deals with the science of women living alone. And he's not
Mm,
the only one that I've heard talking about this of lately. And he talks about how a woman's brain really changes when she is living by herself, living alone. And most of what he says, well, I think all of what he says was very positive. And, I really do agree that whatever the science is showing, um, if I don't, I can only speak for myself, but since I've been by myself in the last almost 4 years now, I don't know that I could actually share my space with anybody else again.
Hmm.
mm.
Hmm.
I enjoy me.
But look, no, hold on. I enjoy me too. I do. I do. Y'all know, but at some point I want to share my space again. Put that out there in the universe. I want to share my space again. However, no, I get it because honestly, Miss P, what you're saying is that you really truly stepped into who you are, and you can keep your own company. Because
Yeah,
see, a lot of people can't keep their own company.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's taken growing into, but the more I grow into it, the more I enjoy it. Plus, I think at this stage in my life is just the right time.
Nice. And there's another guy, and I want to say it's Carl Jung or something. It's a Chinese guy that has
Mhm.
that same conversation that you're talking about.
You're talking about the monk. Yeah.
Carl
Yeah,
Young. Mm.
Carl Jung. Okay, yeah, okay. So interesting that you said that because he popped up for me last week for the first time, and I guess maybe it was a foreground to this conversation right here. But when I tell you, he talked about the power of a woman living alone, a single woman, I
Hmm.
was like, oh my gosh, he is talking about me. He is, I mean, like, I resonated with so much that he said. And so I get that. And so I didn't realize Dispenza was doing some talk and some study on it too. Because that's my dude too. I love Joe Dispenza. He says a lot of good stuff because I'm into the science of mind. So I'm into all of that. All right, good stuff. So Queens, tonight is your night, and I am not going to prolong the time. I am going to hand the floor over to you, ladies.
Okay. So Miss Sylvia had asked me to extend the talk that she did on marriage as karma. And so I don't know which one of you came up with racism on marriage, but when I saw that, I'm like, racism on marriage. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's how does racism impact marriage?
Okay.
And so, what I'll be doing tonight is talking about that from the standpoint of Mr. Neely Fuller's book. If I can, I don't know if Indy's seen, but this book is called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter racist code. And I think somebody in the chat had mentioned that they wish they had known the power of being Black, or let's say being non white, as Mr. Fuller refers to all people who are not so called white. And so I don't know about the power of that. And when Mr. Fuller talks about it, it can really, as the young lady in the video I sent to you talks about, how she said his thoughts are very controversial. So what that means is when you hear this, you may not, probably won't agree with his thought processes, but he tends to be a very logical person. And he and Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Shelley, did you ever hear of her?
No.
No? Okay. So she is now an ancestor. She and Mr. Fuller were very good friends, and they pivoted off of each other's work. He gave her an opportunity to learn from him his definition of racism, white supremacy. And so, they were very good friends and did a lot of collaborative work. And so he talks about marriage, and Tammi is going to play a short 5-minute video. It's an animated video. I don't know who came up with these videos, but they did a lot of them with Mr. Fuller talking about certain aspects of his book and explaining things. So the video I sent Tammi is Mr. Fuller on marriage. And so what I would like to do before I get started is to have her show that video.
Okay, so let me.
And while she's pulling that up, I'd like to say that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, Mr. Fuller's good friend, she wrote the book, The ISIS Papers. Phenomenal book, well known. So if you get a chance to get it, The ISIS Papers.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Here we.
That's true. Prisoners of war cannot be married. Look at it that way. I like to use the prison analogy because a lot of black people have been in what we call prisons. The code calls it greater confinement, but we're all confined. We're all born in prison. And the name of the prison system is the system of white supremacy. So prisoners of war are not married. We can say we are, but it has to be recognized by the prison masters. And we just get together with someone and say that we are married, and the white supremacist says, yeah, but I officiate over all of you. See, if you're a prisoner of war, you make decisions or make promises to your so-called mate. See, when say a married couple, for instance, has to have what? There's an old saying, to raise a child, it takes a village. Well, it takes a system to support a marriage. So if you're in a prison system, you're really not married. You can call a person your wife, but a lady can say, I have a husband. These are just words. But you can't promise that person anything as a prisoner of war. Why? Because you can't promise yourself anything. See, marriage is based on promises made and promises kept. But you can't guarantee anything if you're a person of color on this planet to anybody. Because you can't guarantee yourself that you'll even be breathing. If the white supremacists tell you when you're saying, I can't breathe, and the white supremacist says, yeah, I know you can't breathe because I got my arm locked around your neck. And if you die while I'm doing it, you're just a dead Negro, that's all. You're just a dead non-white person. Because I don't have to answer to anybody that looks like you. Ever. I have to answer to other white people. That's what white supremacy means. So, to get back to the point, you're not married unless the white supremacists say that you are. And like the illustration you gave, right? On the slave ship, say, I marry you, you and me are going to be, husband and wife. But you can't be a husband because you can't function as one. She's in chains and you're in chains by the chain masters. All right? So when you get where you're going, you say, well, wait a minute, you're going to take her down, you're telling her to go here? That's my wife. We got married on the boat and all like that. And that captain of the boat says, hey, This is a slave woman. She's my slave. In fact, I had her last night, all right, when I called her up from the bottom of the ship before we landed, okay? So you don't have anything, Negro, African, whatever you want to call yourself, tribal leader. You're nothing to me. Neither is she. So I'm saying I'm selling her right now to this bidder here at the slave auction. And she's going down the river. You're going to stay here with me. End of story. So much for your so-called marriage. Now that has not changed, because black people will say, well, yeah, I got a wife, but she's in California, but my job is up here in Minnesota. I got to do this, I got to do that. Say, well, how come she's not with you and whatnot? Well, I couldn't take her with me. Okay. Well, why couldn't I? I mean, our money wasn't good enough, wasn't long enough. And I have to move around a lot. I mean, in order to make a living. She doesn't have a job, so I have to move a lot. And my job calls, we can't have, it's the type of job where you can't have your woman with you all the time. Oh, according to whom? According to the people that run my job. And that is black people's plight all over the world. Right now, as we speak, there are black males by the millions who are working on jobs in places where a long ways from their village where they were born. And they're sending money back to what they call their family. They don't really have a family. Why? They're not together. They're not looking at each other. That's all in their imagination. They can't be with the person. They say, well, next year, as soon as this job, I'm a migratory laborer, and I'm in this foreign place, but next year I'll be back with you all. I mean, send me some pictures, and show me who's doing what and how the children have grown and all like that. That hasn't changed. By the millions. Dark people moving all over the world at the bidding of whom? Racist man and racist woman. That's why they are moving around. They can't stay where they are. Why can't they stay where they are? Because the white supremacists have made it impossible for them to stay where they are and have anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what white supremacy means.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you don't have a wife. You don't have any. You can't claim your children as being your own. You have to send them to the slave master, to the captain of the ship, to get food and shelter, just like you have to get it if you're a person of color.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality of white supremacy.
Okay. Are there any comments, questions?
I understand the concept. I think it's I don't want to say it a bit extreme, but it's like it's I understand the message. Let me say that, but I don't think it's everyone's reality.
Okay. And that's what I was trying to convey at the outset, is that it will seem extreme to some people. But the backstory is this: Mr. Fuller made his transition this year. He was 95 years old. He was in the Korean War. He experienced a lot of racism.
Mm-hmm.
And he said while he was in Korea, uh, in the war, sitting out on guard duty one night, he said it was so quiet and so peaceful. He wondered why it was so much turmoil in the world. And so these are the kinds of thoughts that came to him, and he wrote this book over many years, and somebody volunteered to type it for him, and he would carry it around in a suitcase for a long time. And so what you will encounter in his book, yes, it will seem very extreme, because I know when I first started reading, I just, I couldn't really grasp it because I wasn't ready to. And so I remember one day I was standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes, and I'm thinking about this definition that he gives for racism, white supremacy. And it finally hit home and sunk in. And then that's when, I became a lover of Neely Fuller because of the kind of world that I grew up in, you know, which is going to be uh, quite different from, I would say, my grandson and granddaughter growing up in a totally different world. Now,
Mhm.
they may have some of those experiences, but they did not grow up the way I did or Sylvia. And so I guess that's why she and I relate so well to him. But what I saw on the internet today was really young people touting this book, because of all the things that are going on in the world today that racism impacts. And it's not just marriage. But what I'm going to be doing is reading from Mr. Fuller's book and making commentary and asking for questions so that we can get a better understanding. And I'm glad you said what you did, Shelley, because the language Mr. Fuller uses will probably not jive well with people who are younger than
Mhm.
maybe Sylvia and I are, such as yourself. Okay. So Mr. Fuller had involved in his definition of racism, white supremacy. He said for him, racism, white supremacy is a system. It's not about somebody who likes or dislikes you because you are a certain height or a certain color or anything in a physical manner. And like he said, I don't know when racism started. None of us do. But what we can know from reading, and I just say know from reading because these are other people's research that's been put out there, is that in the beginning of this country, after it was taken from the indigenous people who lived here, um, the people who came here from Africa, from Europe, they all worked together. And so when I read this I've read this in at least two books, and it says it was the late 1600s, there was no white people in America.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? But it took me a minute, but I understood what they meant. They meant that there was nobody referred to by that title, white. You were referred to as English or African or French or whatever country you came from. Because even today, especially on the African continent, and I meet people every day from Africa, and I'll ask them, where are you from? They never say Africa. Now I'm from Nigeria, or I'm from Ghana, or I'm from Cameroon, whatever country they're from on the continent. That's how they identify themselves. And so, from my understanding of what I've read, is that that term white came to be very prominent. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of the backstory in other countries, especially European, um, in the late 1600s, what the elite people in America who were running the farms and whatnot began to discern is that all of these different people, Africans, Europeans, whoever, wherever they came from, were living together, getting along together, marrying each other. And so, as a result of that, um, these people got together in what is known as Bacon's Rebellion. Now, you'll have to do some research on that and find out what it's all about. I've done it, but I can't remember all the details of Bacon's Rebellion. But what the elites understood was this: we have to squash this, or all of these people will rise up and demolish what we're trying to build here. So that's how they start making laws to separate people based on not just color, but a whole lot of other things, but color for the most part, and assigning different levels to everybody. And of course, the African got the lowest level. And so that's, basically history began to be rewritten. I mean, actually, the world has been turned upside down, inside out with pens and paper. Uh, it seems like 2025 is beginning to turn things right side up again because there are so many truths coming out now about everything. But anyway, what I would like to do here, Mr. Fuller talks about racism being a system created to mistreat people. And he said in 9 areas of people activities. And those people activities for him can be added to or taken away from. I'm sure he would not matter because people do it all the time. And those are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, um, politics, religion, sex, and war. And in this expanded version of his book, which is originally in black and white, he adds war/counter war, and he explains that in the book. Yeah, that's the original book Sylvia has there.
Mhm.
Okay, so he he talks about each one of those areas in his book, and he talks in depth about them, and he gives you questions and answers about them. Now, the section that has marriage in it comes under sex, and that's because that's a big part of being married. And that's a big, I think of it this way: a large number of people get married because they want to legitimize, because the system has said, in the area of religion especially, that if you want to have sex, you must be married. There may not be a lot of people that abide by that today, but they still want to get married. They still want to get married so they can look legal where sex is concerned. Um, I had a guy come in today and he said he wanted to pay for his elopement. He was getting ready to get married. And so it's amazing, after having been in this work and then, you know, talking to people every day who want to get married and paying to get married and all of that. And I always wonder how much time have they put in before to prepare for the marriage instead of putting all this time and money in for the ceremony. But the people I see are not going for the big ceremonies. They're just going to get married in a civil marriage, in the courthouse by the magistrate. Okay, so in this area, under sex, he talks about marriage as mutual arrangement. During the existence of white supremacy, the most powerful laws of marriage are dominated by racist man and racist woman, white supremacists collectively. Since the non white people of the known universe are subject to racist man and racist woman, the marriages between non white people to each other or between non white people and white people are functionally political support arrangements that are directly or indirectly used to serve the system of white supremacy in all areas of activity. Would anybody like to comment on that? You got your hands raised, Sylvia?
I didn't have my hand, but I noticed that Dr. Welsing says that in terms of marriage, whenever the black man wants power, he'll hand over the white woman because to him that will be a symbol of power. And an example of that is in Burkina Faso, West Africa, where Ibrahim Traore has encouraged people, Africans, to become sovereign. In the Ivory Coast, that country, the president is going along with white supremacy. And that president was sent to France, educated in France, uh, and then to really, bring him in to support white supremacy, they put a rich white woman in his presence for him to marry.
Mm-hmm. So that's how white supremacy works in the political arena. She just explained. And that's how our, I call them all entertainers because, the sports is all about entertainment too. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of these sports and entertainment people, whether it be movie, TV, or whatever, they are they are sent, or these women are sent to them so that that money can stay in their community. So that's how we support white supremacy, when we agree to marry somebody from their group. And I know that, like I said, that's going to sound kind of harsh to people, but it's really a reality. It's a reality. I know the story of Tiger Woods is like that. His best friend, who was a white man, introduced him to the woman who got more money, probably in the divorce, that can stay in the white community. That money didn't go to a black woman. Okay, so that's how racism, white supremacy works in the entertainment industry a lot of times.
Yeah, I know
Um,
back in the day they used to always, there was that stigma out there that those guys that make it big in sports or entertainment, you'll see them with white women, and that was a thing, and that always was a bad taste, and of course it should be in black women's mouth, because it's like, we're the ones that hold you down, we're the ones that support you, so the expectation was that they would stay. But for some reason, and if she wasn't white, and I'm not into colorism, so please no one take this out of context, they were, it was always the stigma of getting light skin, long hair. I remember a lot of that back in the day as well.
mhm. And it's still present today. It hasn't changed. It is
Mm.
still the same. And I think a lot of people do it not even knowing that they're supporting white supremacy. I remember being in the nail shop one Saturday or whatever day it was. And I saw this young lady, very, very thin, and she had on a pink wig. And we struck up a conversation, and I asked her, I said, "So why do you wear your hair pink?" I mean, which is none of my business, but I was just curious. And she said, "I work with a lot of white people." And she pulled the wig off. She said, "I have natural hair, but when I wear my natural hair, I get a lot of hate." So she wore the pink wig to make white supremacy feel comfortable, because that's what we are taught to do in very subtle ways. We don't realize it. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. So
And
because
we
we have,
realizing it, and it's time to change that. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
right,
It is
exactly.
time. And someone put in the chat that does still go on now, which we definitely all concur. But we really see that goes back to what I said earlier about, I wish I knew my truth earlier and lived it authentically,
Hmm.
because our everything is beautiful. We're beautiful. No, whether our hair is natural, whether it's not, whatever it is, we're beautiful. And these are the things that contribute to mental health issues, because people feel insecure, they feel inferior, which her having to choose um a pink wig. Think about it. You
Hmm.
having to choose a pink wig over your natural hair to fit in.
Yeah,
That's not good. That's not good. And hold on, I see the chat is active as well. They're saying it's the same as being a clean cut black man which is true, because there's still not there's a community, still a population still not a fan of dreads, or the little scrunchy little afros and things like that. They say you got to sell the Barack Obama look, which anyone want to comment on any of that?
I know it's true, but it is also because we don't own anything. So technically we are forced to do that if we want to maintain the employment we have. So
That's exactly right, Shelley.
we don't have no ownership. But I did want to rewind, and when you said most entertainers, when they get successful, they get.
I didn't say most.
No, I know. I finna correct
Okay.
myself. A lot of them get
some of them, yeah.
Some of them, and it is a fact that the women are planning definitely to keep the money in their community. I always said in barbershop talks, it's always been a talk that, like, when you marry outside like that, the money stays with them because that's who makes the decision. But I will also state that a lot of men, black men, on our rise to that level, black women don't hold us down. We would not most, let me use the word most. A lot of black women don't want to deal with men who are on the way up. They want to wait till they get to that level, and then everybody wants them. So once they get to that level, a lot of black men are kind of turned off from black women because when they were struggling and coming up, nobody messed with them. And so when they get there, it's probably been programmed in them, but I think it's more of a self-defense mechanism, whereas God wasn't messing with me when I was broke, so don't worry about what I'm doing now. I'm here.
And I think what is really true is that none of that is done by mistake. It's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
It's on purpose. And Mr. Fuller talks about the only reason that non-black people should marry each other is to try to create justice. And justice he defines as balance. And I always think about the scale of justice, which reminds me also of Sylvia, the Ma'at, where you have to be balanced enough that when you put your heart on the scale, that it won't tilt it one way or the other, but it would be so light, which means you have gained so much awareness and a clean heart that you balance the scale out. And so Mr. Fuller says, for non-black people, the marriage should be to create justice among each other. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what Shelley was just talking about. It is done on purpose so that we don't come together. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they start with it, when we're little kids. Yeah. And it grows up in us, and it's to enslave the mind. Mm-hmm. And that's what we suffer from.
Yeah. And so somebody put in the chat, I guess we all can agree with that, black women wouldn't be checking for Tiger Woods as a Target worker. So and it's to Shelley's point, like, and that's something else. No, let me say it this way. That's something else that really needs to change, because if we as a society are going to get mad when they do come up and choose another nationality, another race, we have to own that, right? Because if we're not giving them the support, if we're not holding them down, then what are the expectations? And which, again, a lot of that starts with us and the choices that we make. So we got to choose to hold our men down. We got to choose to be the support. Now, here's the thing. The men got to choose. They got to make the right choices where we are concerned as well.
What was that comment again?
I'm sorry.
What was that comment again? I didn't
They
hear all.
have to make the right choices where we are concerned as well. In other words, if the expectation is that we're going to hold you down, the expectation should that you're going to respect us. Because see, a lot of women don't hold the men down as they should, is because they feel men are womanizers, men are disrespectful, men have mommy issues, the list goes on and on and on. So that's where a lot of unresolved issues kind of create the position that some of it where we stand in this, why the women don't hold the men down, and and the men go seek outside the race.
Yeah. Well,
I'd like to interject another possible reason, and that being that we have been programmed, that is, non-white people have been programmed through entertainment, music, and movies to look for the bag, look for the one who has all the money, chains around their neck, talking about the music. So we've been programmed to look for the bag, because back in my day, not in my day, my mother's day, I noticed that when people got married, they worked together. Although my mother was educated and my father had a fourth grade education, they worked together to make a family. That's because they weren't inundated with the programming of entertainment, music, the program that is now coming across, the music, uh, uh, anything to degrade the Black female. That wasn't a part of that era. But this group has been seriously programmed by entertainment.
And
Oh
and
wow. Okay, so let me say this, Miss P, before you jump back in, because somebody put in the chat, but Tammy, some of that programming starts in high school. Not all, but young Black guys say they won't date Black girls.
that started before high school.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
That started way before high school. Oh
Wow.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you're getting it through the media. You're getting it in so many different ways.
One of the main, just like Neely Fuller says, white supremacy racism is instituted through 9 areas of life. One of the main areas where this programming has caused this kind of thinking is the educational system, which were designed by rich white people like the Rockefellers
Mhm.
and that group of people that rule the 8.5 billion people in the United States today. They designed the curriculum to
Yeah.
always make white people look like the highest.
Mhm.
So if you've been through kindergarten through the university, you've been through that kind of programming.
So yeah, when I was growing up, what was on television as it pertained to Black people was always these cartoons about Africans cooking white people and eating them, and I mean, all this kind of ridiculous stuff, you know. And then I will never forget, I was on a plane and we were watching King Kong, not the original version. But anyway, there was this white couple sitting in front of us. And when King Kong was looking for the white woman and he was picking women up, I don't know if he was smelling them or not, but he picked this white woman up and he smelled her and he sort of like threw her aside, like, no, you aren't the one. And we just roared. And this white couple, they in unison turned around and looked at us like, how dare you laugh at him throwing that white woman away? Yeah.
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean, you can't even enjoy a private laugh. Okay. But, we just kept laughing.
That's the system we in.
Yeah.
Somebody put in the chat. Oh, and they said that 90% of the time they wear their hair natural, but they know that's not everyone's reality. And then going back to what when we were talking about the programming, and somebody added that it started from home. So I heard you guys say school, but you somebody
Yeah,
put it
in the home is the parent is the teacher who has also been educated. Okay, so it
Miseducated.
starts, yeah,
Mhm.
who has also been educated. Now, I wanted to say this. There's a gentleman, his name is John Taylor Gatta, Gutta. He wrote the book Dumbing Down America. And he was an educator. He was a white man, and he was voted the best teacher in the New York school system. And that gave him a lot of popularity. And during that time, he quit the school system and he wrote this book, Dumbing Down America, that shows how they use education to do all of these kinds of things. It's called Dumbing Down America by John Taylor Gatta.
Mhm.
So all this stuff has been documented.
Yeah,
You know,
it has in different ways. Mr.
Mhm.
Fuller his sounds more raw, but Mr. Fuller to me sounds like, and I won't say an attorney, but he sounds like somebody who has this legal mind. And Dr. Francis Cress Wilson said, when I met him, he was working at the Engravement Bureau in Washington, D.C. So I don't know what his formal education level is, but I will tell you this.
he
I
didn't
think
have,
he is the most educated man I have ever come in contact with.
he didn't go through formal education.
Yeah, 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 because the best education that you can have is self-education.
Mhm.
That is true, because then you really listening to the spirit that is inside of you, and the spirit that the
Yeah.
supernatural help that's around you. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Okay. Marriages between white people are for the purpose of practicing white supremacy. So called marriages between non white people have the effect of helping non white people to help white people to practice white supremacy. And that's what we just finished talking about. Because when we are misteaching our children, either by word or deed, showing them things to do that's against who they are as a non white person, then we're helping the system. We'll help in the system. I watch people bring their children to the courthouse. And I heard a lady say one day, if you don't stop that, you're going to end up here. And I'm like, don't say that to him. That's your child. And you're already telling him, and he ain't in middle school yet, that he's going to end up in jail. That's your expectations for him.
and you know what? That you just brought up something. It's interesting that you brought that up, because we need to parents need to learn how to talk to their children, because yesterday I was walking out of a establishment, and this lady was next to her son, and he was about to walk out into to the parking lot, which I understand her talking, but it was the way she did it, like using profanity at him and everything. And I found myself saying, you know what, we got to learn how to talk better to not only our children but each other, because to your point, she's telling her child, you gonna end up there. That fear and that type of talk doesn't build anybody up.
No, first, and they're doing it to their children because it's what was done to
Done to
them.
them.
It's generational.
Yeah.
But
And
all, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
until somebody decides to break that generational way of thinking, it will continue. Go ahead, Shelley.
I'm gonna say also though, it's because there's no more like an accountability. Like growing up, I think it probably ended when I was a child. we were in church or wherever it was, when we did wrong, it was pointed out, not necessarily publicly. It wasn't nothing to say. Like for someone to correct you for your wrong, or if a female's acting wild, she was talked about for what she did. Nowadays, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, so there's no right or wrong no more. This is what I want to do with mine, so stay out of mine. And because of that, like you said, when someone was in public, out of line, disrespecting their child, when I was growing up, another parent would be like, "Don't talk to that baby like that," and everybody else would agree with it. So the parent or whoever knew they were wrong. Nowadays, if you correct someone, you're not, they're not accountable for that. So you can't tell me what to do. And it could be a whole another group of people that agree with you, but everyone's afraid to say, no, we all letting you know you're not going to do that here.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I remember in the neighborhood I grew up in, everybody watched everybody else's children. I mean, that was a fact. If I did something before my parents got home from work, they knew it before they got home from work. Okay. And I mean, I got a beating once because somebody's parent told my parents something that their child said I had said about their father, which was a lie. Honestly, I didn't even know what they were talking about, but my parents believed it enough for my dad to give me a whipping for that, So that doesn't happen today. It's like, you better not touch my child. You better not say anything to my child.
But it goes as far as even in church, like where I think majority of women in churches now, churches are probably majority women. Women used to get shamed in church. Like the pastor would talk about, if you loose, if you dress in this way, it ain't gonna be in this church, blah, blah, blah. Now it's, hey, come as you are, everyone's welcome. And I guess that's the way the world is now, but that's not the way a society to me is built. Like there has to be standards and rules and regulations. So,
and Neely Fuller said he mentioned the African adage. It says it takes a whole village to raise a child, and Neely said that system of the village has been replaced with white supremacy racism.
And actually, Miss Abuela, in the chat, somebody put more huts, not enough villages. So to your point. And then Shelley, even to the point of what you just said, I'll see you one, because they would also have the women that got pregnant out of wedlock. She would have to go and stand before the church and apologize. Now, mind you, there was a man involved, but he wasn't called to the front. Yeah. She was the one. And even as I said that, I was reminded of even the woman in the Bible when they wanted to stone her for being caught in the act of adultery. Now, she was in the act with somebody else, but she the one that they brought to the front. Don't get me started.
Well, I think that's the problem, because don't you guys say your body, your choice. So you guys are responsible for your bodies. So if you choose to commit adultery with a man is married, or if you choose to procreate out of wedlock, it's your choice. Women are the key to children and not us. Yes, we play a part in it, but it's your decision. It's not our decision. So that's why it was the woman's fault, because she had the right to say no. We don't have the right to say, you better say yes. We need permission. So if you grant permission, then you're the one responsible for it.
Okay, so someone put in the chat, no one needs to be shaming anyone in church, rolling eyes, LOL.
And that's why we where we are.
But now, Shelley, the act of adultery, I don't think they was necessarily indicating she was involved with a married man.
That's adultery.
Ahead,
adultery. So that's what adultery is.
No, I ain't talking about that, because she could have been the married one and having an affair.
Agreed, it could have went both ways. She the one that gives access to her body. he doesn't, unless he took it, then there's a charge for that. But if he just asked for it and she said, I'm married, yes, you can have it, it's her fault. We have to accept whose fault it is, even though it's
well, since we don't know what the actual scenario, we're not gonna get into
regardless of the scenario, it's your body, your choice.
Well, Shelly, don't go there with me, because there's a lot of cases that, okay, that don't have nothing to do with the conversation for tonight. Because when you talk, some cases, it is the women's bodies have been taken.
And that's why I said there's a charge for that. You go to jail for that.
But back then there were not accountability charges for that.
Okay,
So
I agree with that.
You got to think. Look, A Color Purple, the book of Color Purple in the movie. What did the lady say? A girl child is not safe in a house full of men. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it wasn't necessarily someone who she willingly got involved with. Sometimes it was taken from her. So therefore, I would be cautious to use that statement, her body, her choice.
I mean, but in general and in law and in normacy, that's what it is. There's a case where men have been taken advantage of. There's an example of everything in every scenario. So we can't focus on the one or two scenarios that went array. It's the majority that is the focus to me.
Okay, so Shelly, you being asked a question. They saying, Shelly, isn't the man supposed to be the leader? And they say now you want to blame the woman.
No, the man is the leader. The man is the leader of his household, not of her household, and not of, if she's married, their household. He's the leader of his household. His woman ain't doing that. That's his responsibility. And that's why back in the day, if you touch another man's wife, your husband could go kill that man legally because he was the leader of his household. So I'm not the leader. I don't lead no woman but my daughter and my wife. That's it. I'm the only leader of them.
All right, Miss P, I'm gonna get you back. I'm not going back. I'm not Cola. I'm not going back and forth with Shelly.
Okay. Within the system of white supremacy, all of the affection, caring, commitment, devotion, and romance that is said to be associated with marriage is, for non-white males and females, a so-called union that is controlled by racism, racist man and racist woman. The system of white supremacy racism is deliberately designed to dominate and mistreat people through the strict control of thought, speech, and action based on factors of color or non-color. It is a poisonous system. It makes all people poisonous in the ways that they interact with each other. It makes each person a carrier of poisonous thoughts. And I think that kind of is what, you and Shelly talking about.
Exactly. Because Shelly is so tainted.
Oh, wow.
And Shelly, I read somewhere, and I wish I could find it, that probably the original definition for adultery did not mean what it has come to mean today. That in more ancient times, it meant that a god and a human had cohabited with each other and adulterated the god.
I believe that. I can understand that.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Shelly, another comment for you was, but isn't the men the leader of the community?
He's the leader of the community, but not no one individual person in the community. When we lead a community, we just suggest and come together and meet and make an informative decision that's better for everyone, not on an individual basis. The community is everyone collectively.
Okay, and Shelly, somebody got your back. They say he tainted because he believes in accountability. So I guess touche to me on that one.
Okay.
But the white supremacy, I think, if you think about it, it has tainted every facet of society. There's nowhere that is not touched. And a lot of people don't, like I'll say this on every show, like my father said, a lot of people don't know that they don't know. So they just move along not knowing they're the number one participant in it.
You're right. And that reminded me of, I went to this workshop once. I'll call it Racism 101. It's really an introduction to what racism is like. Anyway, there was this man in the class. He had retired from corporate America. And through the entire 2 days, I think we were there, he said he had never experienced racism. By the end of the time, I think it was a 2 or 3 day event, he was in tears because he had to realize he would always say, well, I would find a way around obstacles. Well, why would you have to find a way around obstacles unless somebody ain't putting them in your way?
You know, Penelope, that incident goes back to what Neely Fuller said. He said he'd never experienced racism. Neely Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy, racism, everything that you do understand will only confuse you. He was confused.
Yeah, he was very confused, and he realized it by the end of that workshop. He was in tears. He was very, very hurt. He'd spent his whole life.
And that's exactly what I meant in the beginning when we said, what's something I wish I knew earlier, when I said, I wish I understood the game of life.
Right.
That is exactly what I was saying. I didn't realize it was racism involved. That's the part of life I wish I understood. And that's the game, though. That's the game.
It's the game. It's the game. And none of us really know it because it's been so, sometimes like during my era and Sylvia's, in your face, but it has a way of changing. Well, Mr. Fuller talks about it change. I can't remember the words he says, but it always changes forms when it needs to. And it knows when it needs to change forms to keep you going.
Facts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Shelley, somebody put in the chat too, the men would be, or everybody, the men would be the leader in a utopia society. So, what you were going to say, Miss Sylvia?
See, I study history, so I know about the Sibyls, you know, that the matriarchal system was the first system of rule. That's the female ruled in ancient times. But if you don't know history, if you've just been taught history from the public school system, then you won't know any of these things. This thing that we're in now is a patriarchal system. That's why it ain't working.
Yeah.
And then where's my book? Let me show you this book.
300%.
This is the book I mentioned, I think, the last time we got together, The Sibyls, that tells you about when these Black high priests and priestesses ruled the world. And they were in Rome and Greece 3,000 years before the European even got there. And the Vatican is the place where the Sibyl used to sit.
Yeah, facts.
And now the Pope is trying to be the woman with the skirts and the robes on, you know. So
the feminine energy is that's what rules. And that's why it's known a fact a woman in her true femininity runs her house, like silently. It doesn't have to be said. The man naturally, I'll use the word, submits to her.
He supports her.
Thank you. He
naturally
supports it to the fullest when it's real and pure. Because that, as a man, that's what we do. We live to cater to the woman, or not to provide support. That's the only thing we want to do. Like I said, when a man gets money, he's thinking, ooh, now I could get her this, now I could buy her that, now we can have this. That's just what we do naturally, even amongst men. It's like, I can't wait till my money get right. My girl on this, my girl on that. We don't never say what we gonna do. We just gonna watch her and smile like,
yeah.
Fine.
I remember.
So you doing the happy wife, happy life thing, even though I feel it should be happy spouse, happy house. I feel it's just like you say, we support each other.
I remember being in Sam's one day, and I asked this man if he would put some water in my cart for me. And what he said to me, he with a big smile on his face, he said, "I live to help women."
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
he did, and he helped.
Well, I love that. And going back to the feminine energy, I said a couple weeks ago, I was like, they need to let women run this country. I feel we would clean it up, do better, and all that. I think Shelley had a rebuttal for it. But I'm serious. I feel that women could probably clean up the mess that is being made these days, but everybody ain't gonna agree with me. That's okay. But
I just think today's women are 1,000% different than the women of that time in that book.
Not all.
Well, there's no one size fits all.
We gotta choose our words wisely. Not all.
Okay. She's been suppressed. That feminine energy has just been suppressed. It's still there. It's just been suppressed. Now we can look at Namibia, where for years they had Southwest Africa. For years they had men presidents of the country. Now they have a female president and a female Black president. That's the one that put 500 Americans out of the country immediately. Anybody that didn't have proper documentation and all of that, case closed. And they said, if we have to pay for visas to come into the U.S., now you pay for visas to come into Namibia. Mm-hmm. That was this year. Coming back into our rightful place.
Okay, Ms. B.
All right. As long as white supremacy is the dominant social material force.
Shelley, what you listening to?
Oh, you can hear that?
Yeah.
I was trying to click off something, and the music was on it, and of course it wouldn't click off fast enough. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. As long as white supremacy is the dominant socio-material force among the people of the known universe, do not say that any non-white person is married. Instead, use the term attempted marriage, mated, etc. Explanation. As long as white supremacy exists, it is risk-prone for any non-white persons to attempt or pretend marriage. They should instead devote their time to those activities that will best help to eliminate racism. Any person who must have the direct or indirect approval of white supremacists in order to engage in sexual intercourse, sexual play, and or sexual communication cannot be married. As long as white supremacy exists, no person who is subject to white supremacy can be married. Now, I remember reading, I don't know if it was Dr. John Henry Clarke's, one of his books, but I think it was. And he was talking about when Columbus came to the Americas, not necessarily North America, because he didn't, as far as I understand, he never made it to North America. But he wrote in his journal, or one of his men wrote in the journal, that they encountered people in the Americas at that time who didn't think a lot about marriage. Mm-hmm. They would spend their time with the person that they enjoyed until they no longer wanted to be with them, and they amicably went their own ways. And they found that very, very strange because of the way they do marriage, which is mainly to uphold white supremacy by making sure they can keep as much material substance as they can. Because when you get married, it's a contract that you're signing. I don't think most people understand that. It is a business contract, as a fact. And when you get divorced, it's even more of a business contract. And the government or the state is the one who tells you what you can and cannot do, who gets this and who gets that. So you don't really have a marriage without racism, white supremacy being involved in it in all kinds of ways. It's like when you sign over when you sign the birth certificate for your child, you're signing them over to the state, because the first time you do something that somebody thinks is not right, they're going to call Child Protective Services on you, and the state's going to come and take your child away, put them in foster care, whatever they choose to do with it. So we, as Mr. Fuller said on that video, we're in prison. And many of us don't recognize we're in prison.
I agree with the prison part, and I guess this is something that I have to process about, everything that you just said, like the extremity of it, because I've been programmed to believe in marriage. I've been programmed to understand the value add to it. So I have to process what has been said. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, because I do feel that the slave mindset is still here. I don't disagree with any of that, and I do believe, in this capitalistic society that we're in, we are affected by a lot of those things. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what has just been said in the marriage aspect. Shelly, you have anything that you can probably help me to say what I'm trying to say?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, I had a conversation today with someone where I was telling marriage is a European concept, because we didn't in the beginning have marriage where we went to someone within the law to tell us the union me and my woman had. We made vows to ourselves before God, and we upheld our vows as a couple. So
I like that.
Marriage is definitely a European concept, and it was also more so to benefit the women, I guess, to make it fair and equal, because in marriage, typically the man provides and works and does everything, and the woman provides nurture and comfort, love, children, things of that nature. And in a divorce, the law only makes the man still responsible for all those things he did during the marriage. He doesn't make the woman responsible for all the things she did during the marriage.
I agree that, because I don't know if I mentioned the Penelope. When I lived in Africa, I was told by a gentleman, he was saying more or less that marriage is a European construct, and we don't have to go to the government when we take on a wife. Immediately when that woman gets pregnant, she's automatically my wife, and the whole village will see it that way. That's family.
Yeah.
But don't those people believe in marriage to multiple people in a sense, so they can have
That's an African culture that has to be explored. And what we need to do, I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, we need to study, not read. If you can read, we need to get that a book list. I think I sent Tammi. Did I send you a book list?
You probably did. I got a lot of emails to go through.
One of the things that would really help us is, it took me 45 to 50 years. I had to go back and re-educate myself and study these books that I mentioned. So we can pontificate all we want to, but we need to study study too.
Mhm.
So can I play devil? Well, not devil. That other
Please.
advocate. Um, if we know the universal laws that you have been teaching the last couple months, is there really value add?
Now see, that's for the after she finishes all of that, then we'll come to the solution of the problem, and that's one of the solutions.
Mhm.
That's the solution.
Mhm.
That's the solution, Tammy. That's the solution.
Okay, look, I don't even know if I need to finish it now
Yeah,
because
I'm
I
finished.
mean,
I want to hear what you were saying.
well, because what I'm saying is, as you like the seven spiritual laws of success and things like that. So, and I understand being made aware of history and these roots and those things that have branched off into this dimension that we're in. I understand all that. However, when we really also know our connection to God's source and the universal laws and the power that's in us, and we do get the opportunity to create, although Shelly, you don't like that, to create our reality. I'm just trying to fully, especially when you're supposed to be mindful of where you're sending your energy. I'm trying to fully understand, some of the value in his research as far as like, okay, if I'm creating my reality and I'm living a life a certain way and I have a desire and expectation, but then now I'm being told it's based on this concept, the compensatory code, but yet I still have this belief because this is something that I believe in. Is there value add for me exploring that other aspect of that? I mean, I'm fully aware of knowing it, but do I have to? Is it something that I should put my energy to and apply when it really doesn't align with where I'm headed?
The
Oh,
average person is on a mundane level.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this book is coming from, a mundane level. Now, when you graduate from a mundane level
Mm-hmm.
to studying things that are beyond the physical, getting into the metaphysical,
Mm-hmm.
that's altogether different from the mundane.
right.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And Mr. Fuller explored this concept from a totally third dimensional level of
Mm.
reality, because this is where most people are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
This
Yes.
is where most people are. And Mr. Fuller did not, this was his lane. He didn't try to go into the metaphysical lane. Whenever anybody asked him those questions, he said, that ain't my lane, you know. So he dealt exclusively with this. And like you said, it's for growth. It's for growth. So
Okay.
as you
And so,
grow out of this, then yes, you learn there are other things that you can do to move beyond the physical.
Mhm.
yes. Oh, I love
See,
that. And
yeah,
somebody put in the chat, when you learn more about your history, you learn more about yourself. And
yeah,
I agree with that. I agree
yeah,
with that. So yeah,
yeah,
no, that's why I said I had to just kind of put that out there from another perspective too, because we are also, we have been talking about those spiritual laws of success and manifestation, things like that. So I just had to bring that to the table. Go ahead, Miss P.
okay. Um, it is correct for victims of racism to help eliminate the illusion of the existence of so called marriage by refraining from engaging in so called legal marriage or recognized marriage. Because I think, as Sylvia was saying before, a lot of African people will do the African traditional wedding, but then to have it legitimized, they'll do a Western version of getting married. So,
Mm.
you know, still holding on to the system. The correct purpose for so called legal or recognized marriage is to help arrange a relationship between two or more people in such a manner that they can best help each other produce justice or balance between themselves. And the more you can produce justice and balance within yourself, which is getting into metaphysical, and between, a husband and a wife or your friends or whatever, then the more you can, I won't say disregard racism, white supremacy, but you'll recognize it for what it is and know how to act. You'll know how to act.
Will you really know how to act? I mean, because I think we're still trying to figure it all out. I don't know, but
Well, we will be figuring it out until we leave here.
okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I think we will be figuring it out until we leave here. Most of us. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are waking up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most of us will be figuring it out until we leave here. It's like the young lady that I sent you the video of, and she talks about how she said, when I first started reading Mr. Fuller's work, she said it was just so controversial. And I'm like, I'm still gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I just kept hanging out with my friends. We'd party, we'd get drunk, blah, 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 all of this. And she said, one day it just started making sense to me. And I start asking myself, why do I keep going out, partying with the same people, getting drunk, leaving the club, not knowing where our car is because it's been towed because we parked in the wrong place? And I mean, she just came into this whole awareness that she needed to change her life based on pure logic, you know, based on pure logic. And so I thought that was a wonderful testament to Mr. Fuller and the work that he does, because we are, a lot of us are still on that level a long time. It takes some of us a really long time to get off, and so he's here. This was his purpose for being here, a good part of it. um so let me see, what else do I want to point up here? um To avoid participation in any racist dominated so called marriage is one of the easiest and most effective means by which those non white people who are dedicated to the elimination of racism can better do so. Do not say that you are married to anyone as long as white supremacy racism exists. Instead, say that you are one or more of the following. And I mentioned a few of them over there: care mated, formal mated, legally mated, mutually arranged, church mated, synagogue mated, temple mated, victim mated, tribal mated, counter race mated, arranged, and whatever else you might want to come up with instead of marriage. Um, but do not become involved in any serious sexual commitment, sexual intercourse, etc., with any person who is not seriously trying to speak and act to eliminate racism, white supremacy, and or produce justice. And justice for him is doing the doing for people who need the most constructive thing, because you can do things for people that aren't really constructive, thinking that you're helping them. But he said giving help to those who need, giving help to those who need it, and giving them the most constructive help. um Tell that person that the arrangement that you have must not be regarded as serious if you and that person are not seriously involved in trying to replace the system of white supremacy, racism, with the system of justice or balance between people. Um, so he has some questions in here in the area of sex under which marriage falls. Question: during the existence of white supremacy racism and according to compensatory counter racist logic, what persons are correctly qualified for marriage? Answer: white persons who have proven that they do not practice white supremacy racism, and two, non-white persons who have proven that they are not subject to white supremacy racism. And that means most of the people on the planet shouldn't be married. Not at this time. Not at this time. And that's another thing I wanted to point out too, is that he is talking about as things exist under this system of racism, white supremacy. And Sylvia had recommended a book. The young lady's last name is Hersey. Hersey. Anyway, she attaches capitalism to racism, white supremacy, capitalism, because that figures very largely into what's going on the planet globally at this time. Racism is on the African continent where it has been for as long as we all can remember, and even back further, but especially with um, Abraham Traore, it is just out front and center. I mean, people really who are paying attention cannot deny paying attention can't deny that that is not what's going on. It's about, yeah, racism and capitalism. We are accustomed to going in and doing what we want to do, and black folk are used to go, non-white people are used to going along with the program on the African continent, but this young man decided not to. And so he is fighting for the sovereignty of his country and of the people, because that's our divine right as human beings, is to be sovereign beings. But we haven't known that since we've been here.
So I guess I'm gonna flip the coin again. I'm gonna flip the
Okay.
coin. I'm gonna flip the coin. Before I flip it though, there's a request in the chat. So if you ladies could make a note of this, can you all have a show patriarchal and matriarch civilizations and their reigns? Something like about what you was talking about, Miss Sylvia. That book that you were talking about.
The symbols. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have a request in the chat to have a show on that.
Okay.
So,
Done. Done. That's done.
look, say less. Say less. So,
Want to make sure Shelly's there when we talk, when we are the symbols. Oh, I just want to say one of the quotes that Neely Fuller had was, the purpose of studying Black history is not to find out how great you were. It is to find out what mistakes were made that got us in our current situation.
Mhm.
okay, so the second part of what I was getting, that's powerful what you just said. But I'm gonna flip just for a quick second. So remember last month when Cola shared her journey with the past life regression? This is where I get caught up. Just bear with me. She was a white woman in the 1800s. So part of me get caught with, I understand everything that is being said. I understand the history that we're uncovering and exploring. I understand that. However, if there's a probability that in past lives connections, we were a different race. I guess that's why sometimes with me knowing this stuff, I just be like, oh, okay. And I mean, how can I just have an impact on the here and now, which of course is educating, helping, empowering, transforming. But some of the things are so involved that I'm like, again, it goes back to how much energy am I supposed to put in that stuff when it's possibly in a past life I could have been a white woman, I could have been Asian or something like that. Anybody.
I think first we have to understand and learn history, like true history, not the educational system history, because non a lot of people are, the majority of the people here are less than 4,000 years old. They weren't around back then. Like I said, back in the day, 98% of this world was non-white. So I don't think in no past life we could have been anything but who we are. I think mentally we've been programmed to believe and make sure it fits in. So supremacy still is, is prevalent in our lives today. Yeah. My take.
That's your take, but Cola shared an experience. So unless she was programmed to say in her hypnosis that she didn't see where she saw her consciousness at.
No, I just think we've been programmed to include everyone in history. So just like we said earlier, you don't know. That's what you all of our thoughts aren't our thoughts. A lot of them have been programmed and have grown and festered and produced scenarios that our imagination has created for us.
Okay.
Past life regression, as I understand it, is to help an individual understand their particular assignment in the present life.
Yes.
So it's individual. So her regression experience was directly related to her. My progression might be different, but the bottom line is it helps you to understand why you opted to come back here and participate in a particular assignment this time.
Right.
Another thing I heard, Q Reeves, he's on YouTube. He does past life regression. He was saying that a lot of people that just love Black history and all of that, like I do, he said 9 times out of 10 in the past life they were white slave masters or the white.
Thank you. That's really where I was going. That's all that I was really trying to say. It's a high probability, but Shelley trying to say they weren't around within the last 4,000 years, and I know what I heard, and not even just from Cola. So that's all I'm saying. It's a high probability that our consciousness could have very well been inside of that other race, which is again
I agree with that. I agree.
That's all I was saying. I'm done.
Now that you said like that, I do agree with that when you say past lives, but I probably was thinking years ago, not 300-400 years ago. So, but we have traveled, and as one's gone, one comes. So I do believe our consciousness has been many places and many people in many universes. So 100% correct.
Male, female, they alternate between yes, the feminine and the masculine energy. Agreed. And all that stuff like that. Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, you're right, sis.
And I've heard a lot of people like coming to this dimension because they think it's fun. We don't think it's fun while we're here, but it's your puzzle to figure out. Whatever you were in a past life, if a past life regression can help you remember what your assignment is here, so be it. It doesn't negate whatever you did in the past.
Right.
No, I heard somebody recently say that. Everything that y'all just said is what I've heard before. Like, it's more so a tool to help. It is a tool to help. So that I do find to be true.
Yeah.
So
I would love to find out why here, but I haven't gone that route yet.
and you know what? And as I was just thinking, I was listening to a guy. I know they'd be like, "Girl, you be all over the place," which I do. And he was saying that he was able to go, talk to the spirit guides, and he saw one, and he asked him about his incarnation on earth, and that particular spirit guide said, "I would never disrespect my soul like that coming to this to this environment." So when you just said you had some people come to have fun, but he specifically said, "I would never disrespect my soul and go to earth." And when I heard it, I said, "Why did I come?"
Well, that's his opinion. That's his POV.
I know,
Yeah,
but yeah. So good
yeah,
stuff. Good stuff.
yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to share with us out of Neely
Well,
Fuller's book?
actually, we can come to a stop right here. It's almost 9:30.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. This was some good stuff. This was some good stuff. I thoroughly appreciate it. I will be honest with you. I was kind of nervous, especially when I saw that video that you sent. I was like, "Oh my God, how is it? How is this gonna go over?" I'm like, "Oh my God," because that video was. I was like, "Oh."
Oh, the one that was full of talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
like, I don't want people to stop watching because they think I done went off the rails. But I trust what you ladies are doing and sharing with us. So I was like, okay, we gonna roll with it.
And the good part about these cartoons and stuff, these are young people doing this.
yeah,
These are young people studying Neely Fuller.
that's right. Because we're not doing it.
I know the guy. I look at them. I see them. They're young.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I apologize. I was reading the comment, I guess, about that spirit guide and some in this infinite. But I guess whatever his infinite work is, he wasn't gonna include Earth. How about that? That's
Yeah.
what I guess he was saying.
Okay.
But wow, this ladies, as always, you ladies bring some, the things to think about. Even though I had to get on the other side of the coin for a minute to, just throw some extra thoughts out there. But this was some
That's
really good talk, good conversation. We should know our history. Even though we just hit Black Music Month, we all in Black History Month is February, but somebody back in February said Black history should be 365 days a year. It should be an ongoing thing.
It's good.
It
Yeah.
is.
We
Yeah.
shouldn't be asking anybody to give us a special day. Every day should be special.
That's white supremacy.
That's it.
Giving you a month.
Uh-huh. And the shortest one of the year.
Limiting you, period. Or making you think, what it really does is make people think they're limited to that month. And not from enjoying the other 11 months.
Exactly.
Or technically 12 months, but yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
But
supremacy at its highest.
your history is your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
I
you
mean,
live
because how
it
can
every
you know
day.
where you're going if you don't know where you came from?
Facts.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Look,
Exactly.
somebody put in the year. Black history is all year. And yes, we do agree with that. We agree with that. All right, ladies, we will bring this in. We'll bring this in. We'll bring this in. So, all right, Shelly, since you haven't been with the Queens the whole time, what are your final words? And you don't have Cola to go back and forth
I
with you
know.
for the next 20 minutes now.
I just think my final words are what I always say, and these young ladies just open another door to it, is that you have to read, you have to learn, and not current events and not. I've always told people quit learning post-slavery. Learn before they told you about slavery. What was going on before that? Don't worry about what happened these past 400 years. What happened these past 1,000 or 600 or blah blah blah. So the same thing I always say: read, man. Reading is what it is. So yeah.
And to your point, well, of course, what did they say back in the day? Reading is fundamental, and that has not changed. And we all would hear the saying, if you want information here from Black people, put it in a book. So if we have heard that saying, then let's get into the books. Let's get in, because here's the thing: we're at a time now, you can't even trust the information that they even put on the news or on social media anymore, because with AI and all that, AI is able to duplicate voices and images, and so you really can't even fully trust what's been sharing. But if you share it with you, but if you get into that original manuscript and that original information, the knowledge is there.
At the same time, we're in an era where everything you want to know is at your fingertips. So you could go learn what you want from whom you want to learn it. So you don't have to rely on social media or AI. You could go straight to the source now. Without going to the library. You could do it at home.
Facts. And look, this gonna resonate with somebody on this platform. Reading is legal, so read. LOL. That's Sylvia saying LOL. you know who put that in the chat.
That sound. Did somebody put that in there? Was it Noemi? I used to always say that. Look, reading is legal. That's my beautiful granddaughter.
Who was with us last month. Yes, reading is legal, so read. And let me tell you, like, they trying to stop it. Like, they trying to stop the kids from learning how to write in cursive.
They have.
Well, yeah, they have. And y'all know what? To that point, it broke my heart. I was in Walmart the other day, and the cashier had put the girl's total on the screen, and the girl had to be about 12 or 13 years old, and the girl is just sitting there with money in her hand and didn't know how to count the money out. And I figured this out because a guy walked up to her and he like, "What you doing?" And she was like, and he literally took the money that she had in her hand and counted the money to give to the cashier. So that's how I figured out what was going on. And I was like, no, this has to stop. We have to educate our children. So even like I'm starting to question this tearing down of the board of education like more and more, because
tear it down.
All the way.
Tear it down. Because it's a brainwashing system, and that's why we're in the predicament that we're in today. That's why I said read the book, Dumbing Down America by John Taylor Gatto, a white man that quit the system because he realized he was working in a system that was imprisoning the minds of children.
So it needs to be torn down.
Tear it down.
Tear it
That's
down.
Right.
That listen.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier you mentioned John Rockefeller, and guess what? He said he don't want a world full of thinkers. He want a world full of workers, and so that's what's taking place. So we gotta listen. And then I remember on our very first meeting, Abuela, we was talking about texting, how when you texting, you really kind of working on one side of your brain, so the other side of the brain not getting activity either. So people need to be mindful. Pick up the phone, call, talk, do something. Don't let your brain cells be shut down by technology.
That's right.
All right. So, Shelly, tell the people about your services and your daughter's services, sir.
Well, everything real estate. I will claim to be the best realtor out here. So if you have any real estate needs or questions, holler at me. The Instagram's on the screen. And any dog related issues, we have poochpastries.com or pooch_pastries. So, that's it. That's not it, but that's it.
All right. That's right.
I,
I love it. I love it. All right, Miss Sylvia. Any final words for the people?
My final word. We always hear that reading is fundamental. I would say studying and researching is fundamental.
yes. Yes.
Love it. Love it. Miss P, what you got for us?
I would piggyback on Sylvia and say, after reading and studying, thinking
Ooh.
is necessary.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And look, I'm going to piggyback on you because I just ministered on a prayer call at 6 a.m. this morning. And one of the things that I mentioned was that Rockefeller line about the thinkers. And here's the thing. When you are not thinking, you're not tuning in and tapping into your power. So you gotta think. And if they can keep you, this world can keep you distracted from that, then you're living and operating in that low vibrational frequency. So we have got to, what you say, learn and apply, do the research and think and all that. And somebody just put in the chat, applying the study research is necessary. Amen. Amen. All right. So I never share my services, so I guess I will share mine too. So I, for those who don't know, am a transformational speaker and life coach who specializes in mental health. More info and booking can be found on my website, www.thassawoman.com. And I have officially launched my life coaching business, www.happinesslifestylecoaching.com. So you can go to one of those websites for more information. So, with much love and gratitude, our girl Cola wasn't able to make it tonight, but we send her our love as always. And we just thank Shelly for being here. And of course, the Queens of Wisdom Wednesday, who now has an assignment. So I don't know if you're going to bring it next month or whenever you bring it, but you have a request already for a head start on for one of your future upcoming Wisdom Wednesday. So Queens, I thank you so much. I appreciate you. And it's with much love and gratitude that I say those words. And to our community, to our viewers, I thank you all for being the best part of Real Talk with Tammi B and Company. And I ask, if you are not part of our community, I invite you to subscribe and like and drop us a comment. One, so you'll be subscribe, so you'll be aware when we come back with new content, which is every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And which next Wednesday, the conversation that we were supposed to have on real estate the other week that we did not have because we said one word, and that was Diddy, and that shifted the whole conversation. We're going to have that information as well. Shelly will be the speaker on that topic, because remember, all things real estate, he said, hit him up. So listen, support us, drop us a comment, give us a thumbs up, and be on the lookout for future content. All right. And so I leave you all with this. So the next time you feel like your world is about to end, I hope you study, because he's testing your faith again. And that comes from Kendrick Lamar. My words in the scripture, James tells us that the trying of our faith worketh patience. As we look around the world in the natural, it's clear that our faith is being tested, and things might not quite look the way that we thought they would. But What you must do is take your eyes off the natural and look from the supernatural perspective, and remember that no matter what goes on in the world or even your own personal world, now faith is the substance of hope, things hoped for, and God's got you. He won't put more on you than you can bear. Until the next time, be blessed, stay amazing, peace and love. Good night.
Peace and love.
And peace and love. Tammi. Oh, shoot. Tam.
Hold on, Shell.
Oh.
Ooh.
Wow.